What's up, Explorers? I'm Jeff from the Cloud Explorers, and welcome back to the Microsoft AI Advent Calendar, the Winter Party Exploration Series. It's time for the 9th episode already, and by doing so, we're gonna unbox or open box number 9. Drum rolls. Completions in Azure OpenAI Service. So, today we're gonna have a chat and are gonna discover and explore everything about completions. So, without further ado, let's just jump in. And the best place to start with regards to completions is actually in Azure Open AI Studio, as they have a quite decent description here explaining on what the completions are. Basically, completions are models to use as summarization, content generation, and classification. So they can finalize sentences, write emails for you, summarize stuff, etc. Keep in mind that not all models are completion models or are supported by the completion feature. So you'll simply, in the Azure OpenAI Studio, you simply don't see them in the drop-down box. If you use them through automation, PowerShell, whatever, you get an error saying, hey, this model doesn't support completions. So let's try them. And the completions playground is actually quite cool, quite rich. Compared to the playgrounds we've seen so far, this one has a serious list of examples. And these examples vary from summarization, like we just talked, generating emails, ideas, generating listicle style blogs. Let's try this one out just because of the name. And we can see here that based on an initial sentence, a completion is created. Oh, it's still going actually. So I'm interested what it will write. Oh, there we go. Wow. 6. Oh yeah, the max level length token is 600. So it is quite a interesting amount of text that it's generated. And we can do explain SQL queries, which is a quite fun one as well. By the way, I'm using here the DaVinci 002 model because it's supported. Babbage is supported, Turbo Instruct is supported, and I haven't played around with the other ones, whether they're supported or not. I would assume the basics ones are, but if you want to see the details, check out the models page, which we've seen in the earlier episodes. And the models page goes in detail, model by model, explaining whether its completions are also part of that model or not. So now I'm interested about the explain SQL query actually. Let's have a go. Let's see how it will explain it. Okay, this query will get you all the customers that have been watching a video for over 50 minutes in the last 30 days. Since there is a group by clause, it will be returned. The query will be useful for a company finding customers. So it's actually given background, explain what the query does, also does some time period, company, etc., etc. Explanation. This query will get you all the customers being watched. Yeah, okay, there it goes again. So very cool. I really like this feature, and I really want to see if I can actually use it to generate some blog content, because that would be even more amazing. And it even has a chatbot. So let's see. Following conversation with the assistant. Helpful, creative, clever. Okay, yeah, of course. Cool. Very cool. So big difference here is the stop sequence is a human and AI. And stop sequences makes the responses stop at desired points, like at the end of a sentence, and you can specify up to 4 sequences on which the model will stop and when to return the text. The return text will not contain the stop sequence itself, obviously. And here you can specify the pre-response text, which in this case AI, and post response text is human. So this is a very, very cool way of writing chatbots. So what does the playground have in addition to all the parameters and everything that we had so far, like temperature, max LinkedIn tokens, etc.? We can view the code, and the code right now here is supported for JSON, Python, C#, and simple curl. So an API call, we have the key for it, endpoint, etc. PowerShell is for some reason not here, but it is present as an example on the quick start for completions, which has been so far my go-to page for learning about Azure OpenAI Service, the Azure OpenAI Service documentation on learn.microsoft.com. It has way more examples. Obviously, the studio one which we just did in a nutshell. I'm not gonna play around with all the other examples. I would rather leave that up to you. And we also have the PowerShell one, and that's the one that we're gonna look at today. And similar to the chat one that we've done in the first step to figure out how to communicate through PowerShell, or how to do the REST call through PowerShell to the Azure OpenAI Service. We have a similar setup here. We have an endpoint, API key, and in this case a deployment name as well. Same thing with the keys. Remember, we are using Azure Key Vault to store our keys, so we can skip this step completely with all the environmental variables, etc., and jump to create a new PowerShell script. So here, a pre-created example PowerShell script is provided. So I simply took this one, made it slightly more prettier, and added the Key Vault reference there. And again, like in the previous times, make sure to not, if you're going to use it as is, don't store secrets like this. Use Key Vault, use the PowerShell secret management module, etc. So let's jump in. So this is the script that I've modified to my own version. Here again, it requires for the AZ Key Vault, otherwise we can't do the get AZ Key Vault secret call. I'm already authenticated with a user that has sufficient permissions to read the key, and we're getting the key as plain text here because we need to provide it as part of a header. The OpenAI configuration that you just saw, the base API version, and here I'm using the DaVinci 002. If you're not sure which model can and cannot support, simply go to the studio, to the completion studio, deploy your models, and this deployments drop-down box actually filters all my deployments and only shows the deployments that are eligible for completions. Going back to the script, what do we do here differently? Well, we have a prompt. We have a prompt versus the messages that we had with the chat. And inside the body, we are specifying the max tokens, which is just 10. The temperature and the top P. Again, those two we've covered earlier. If you're not sure what they are, the AI Studio is a great place to go because this is where everything is explained. All these parameters are already present here. And you can simply hover the eye and it will tell you what it does. And the description is quite good. Further, the URL creation. Then I kind of got tired of the traditional way of using the invoke REST method. So I created a splat expression for it to appease to my personal eyes, to my eyes basically. So let's put a breakpoint and see what will happen. So as you can see, I changed the text slightly to the AIs kept existing for ages, up to that fateful day when ... And let's see what we're gonna get as response here. And the response, and I put the response, the choices here because it has quite interesting information. The text became self-aware and a finished reason, and this is what I wanted to show. It actually gives back the finished reason, the index, and the log props. Let's see if we can increase it to 100. Put the P to completely 0. Temperature to 1 and see what will happen. And again, if you want to check out what the temperature is, what the P is, either go to the OpenAI Studio or the documentation, or ideally to one of my previous videos where we talked about the models and talked about the chat, the Azure OpenAI chat, where the documentation around the chat really explains very well what those parameters are. Let's run it again and let's see what we have. And our text is, well, they've just stopped existing. AIs were gone, AIs were dead, AIs were dead, AIs were dead, AIs were dead. Wow. So this is what happens if I change the top P to 0. So it just simply repeats it. So let's put it to 1 and see what we will have. And just for choices dot, let's make the message text. Okay, dot text. Right host. Every time I do a right host, a kitten dies apparently, according to my old colleague. So we're gonna try not to murder them, but according to him, they are. So. So here we can see what our response is. Nope.com web. So it completely went nuts. Yeah, this one is completely unhinged. So this is the cool thing. You can experiment. Oh, edit, redo. So let's put them back to original values. And let's look those up. See if we can get something proper. 0.5 and temperature is 2. And this is important to why this is important. This is why it's important to understand these values, because like I'm still learning, experimenting with them, I'm getting a lot of weird stuff sometimes. Ah, there we go. Look at that. So here we got some more logical response. What's so, and when they woke up, what's your opinion on that? Or they will be pretty well behaved. Robots I'm most worried about is the big. So it made a very interesting completion here. We can also try to see the grass is green and the sky is blue. What about what about AI? Green, the grass. Let's see what kind of answer we're gonna get now. It's all gray, and there's a list of stuff. Mystery to me because I've never heard of it. I never heard of the most of them. There's some big name. Okay. Interesting. I'll go ahead and create one more prompt. And I think it's going crazy because the amount of tokens is simply too big for this. Write me a summary email for following meeting notes. AI, bicep, PowerShell implementation. Yeah. Well, bicep VMs data disk. So it's just simply listing right now everything it can think of. So. And we're gonna finish with the classic one, which is the one that's actually part of the documentation as well. Once up on a time. 1, 2, 3. And once max token 30. Just because I want to experiment. This is a book about all the people in the world who are waiting. I think my model has completely went bananas. Because it does not explain anything. Well, and that's pretty much how completions work. I really encourage you to go through the list of the examples. They're really, really cool examples here. Play around with it. If you like me and love to do it through PowerShell, go ahead. But there are plenty of other different technologies that you can use here by going to the quick start completions. So, and enjoy. If you want to see more on AI, check out the previous episodes and subscribe to not miss the next ones. We still have quite a bunch of them to go. I don't think we're even halfway through. So if you liked it, don't forget to thumbs up the video. If you didn't, downvote the shit out of it. Thank you for watching, and until next time, bye everyone.